Vegas casinos, a multi-million-dollar heist, a man and his crew of 11. All this can only mean one thing. We're comparing Ocean's 11 on this episode of Retro versus Remake.
I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of Retro versus Remake. This is the series where we discuss films and their remakes. Join us as we answer the question, should this remake exist? Today's films are Ocean's 11. Let's jump right in. The original Ocean's 11, made in 1960, starring, here's a long list, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Richard Conte, Joey Bishop, Henry Silva, Buddy Lester, Richard Benedict, Norman Fell, Clem Harvey, Angie Dickinson, Cesar Romero, Patrice Wymore, and Akam Tamaroff. Directed by Louis Milestone. Screenplay by Harry Brown and Charles Lederer. Music by Nelson Riddle. Ocean's 11, 2001, starring George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Bernie Mac, Elliot Gould, Casey Affleck, Scott Conn, Eddie Jameson, Don Cheadle, Shabao Kin, Carl Reiner, Matt Damon, Julie Roberts, and Andy Garcia. Directed by Steven Soderbergh, who we've done an episode on before with our Solaris episode. He directed the remake. Anyway, screenplay by Ted Griffin and music by David Holmes. Okay, lots of names in both films. Reggie, what is your first experience with either film?
I was aware of the original over time, but had never seen it. I knew, it was a Sinatra vehicle, and I tend to stay away from Sinatra acted films. Although we've seen some good ones with him, so yeah. I think maybe I should remove that bias. And then Ocean's 11, the remake. I mean, who hasn't? Who hasn't seen it? It's a trilogy with a spin-off with merchandise, I imagine. I'm sure they got a spot in Disney World at this point. Yeah, I saw Ocean's 11 pretty soon when it came out, if not in theaters. We watched a lot of Ocean's 11 between 2001 and today. I've seen it several times.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Never seen the original. Knew of it. Knew it was a Sinatra thing. Didn't really need to see it. Kind of like you. I was like, oh, it's all right. I had seen the remake, yeah, pretty early after it came out. I saw it on VHS, yeah, back in those days. Yeah, so, and I have seen it a bunch since then. I saw Ocean's 12 just once, and I have not seen Ocean's 13 yet. So yeah. That's where I am with the whole franchise. And Ocean's 8, I saw 30 minutes of it.
Ocean's 12, I don't even remember what happens. I think I've seen 13. Like, I remember 13 more because it's just so over the top. In 8, I saw in like Dolby X, the big big stuff. And the person sitting next to me, it was a couple, and they just kept talking the entire movie, which made it better.
Oh, good.
One of the rare times.
All right, well, these are very different films, despite their same name. So this synopsis is going to be very brief. Here we go. Danny Ocean is a con man. With financial backing, he puts together a team of 11 men to rob casinos in Vegas. He also has an ex-wife. It takes some outstanding effort, but Danny and his team are able to pull off the greatest robbery in Vegas. Afterwards, each movie ends in their own respective ways. The end. So, I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? It's this guy puts together this team of 11 people to rob Vegas, and ultimately is able to do so. But, like I said, very different in how they do it, and very different in how they end. So we have a lot to talk about here, and I guess let's just start at one of the places that the movies share, and that's our lead character of Danny Ocean. And in the original, as we said, it's Frank Sinatra.
How'd it come off? Like a charm. Same here, fantastic.
And in the remake, we have George Clooney.
It's never been done before. What's the target? When was the last time you were in Vegas? You want to knock over a casino. 3 casinos?
Danny Ocean, our title character. From the beginning, I can say this, that we get a more robust picture of who Danny Ocean is early on in the remake.
Mm-hmm.
Like the film starts with George Clooney basically in prison, uh, making the case for why he should be out of prison. Telling I guess officials at the jail, you know, did you get caught or like, are you going to do it again? He's like, no, I'm not going to do it again. We know he's going to do it again. It's the beginning of the movie.
We also learned that he has an ex-wife, and that's kind of why he might have gotten caught. We learned that he had a lot of convictions, and this is the only time he got caught too. So we learned a lot about Danny Ocean remake, like pretty immediately.
Yeah, I think that's a strength of the remake, which is the stakes are set out very early on. It's like, all right, like this guy is smooth. Clearly, they have an idea that he did a lot of crimes, and they only were able to catch him once. And it seems like, which I'm sure it gets vetted out in 12 and 13. It seems like his relationship with his wife is sort of clouded his judgment in some way and caused him to get caught. And he makes kind of the joke that well, she's gone now, so I mean, I won't make the same mistake again because that factor's gone. I think it's a really smart way to just jump into the film, give us everything that we need. The original does not take that pathway at all. Honestly, we don't see Danny Ocean for some time. A character that we'll talk about later in the film is looking for him for the first several minutes of the film. Basically, again, there's not as much to go off of. I think we get some sort of voiceover thing. Someone says the movie opens, it's Christmas in Beverly Hills, and I believe we get a Sinatra voiceover that says, "The time when people only think kind, generous things." That's about it for a while. But as it sort of vets itself out, we do learn that this Danny Ocean has a military background. He was in some sort of airborne platoon during World War II. So, that is to me is an immediate juxtaposition where the remake shows you Danny Ocean is a con man, criminal because he is literally in jail for his cons and crimes. This original just sort of shows that he's competent because he's a war veteran. We hear some stories throughout the film. His crew got into a lot of sort of insane things in the name of like the army or the U.S. like military versus this con man who seems to be more of like an independent kind of contractor type of person. What was your take on that kind of distinction?
I guess it was weird because I had seen the remake before like a bunch of times, like I said, so I was kind of waiting for when I was watching the original for like to see like any signs of that George Clooney Danny Ocean kinda, but we really don't get it at least for a while because he really just comes out seems like Frank Sinatra just hanging out with his buddies. Honestly, that's what the whole movie seems like, especially in the first half, because he doesn't really talk about too much about like I don't know like break like any felonies or anything or like just even the plan, what the plan is. We don't learn about the plan until almost halfway through the original film. So if you come into this Ocean's like totally fresh, you won't know what the movie's really about. They're kind of planning something, but they're for the most part he's just hanging out with his buddies, shooting the shit. And you talked to him about that other character that's looking for him. So when Spiros is looking for him, like Danny's like, I don't know, he's kind of childish. He's like doing these prank calls with these impressions which are clearly not Sinatra's voice. It's clearly just some like ADR of these terrible impressions, and he's just doing these pranks on this Spiros guy the whole time and just loving it. So I didn't get like, oh, this guy's a lifelong criminal. This guy's a con artist. All I got was, oh, he sometimes does prank phone calls and he likes hanging out with his buddies. And that's not what I got from George Clooney's Danny Ocean, who's, like you said, we got the whole setup in the prison. He leaves jail, and immediately he's, like, back in a casino. He's hooking up with his old crew. He meets up with his buddy Frank, and then he's trying to find Rusty right away. It's a much clearer interpretation in the remake. It's like, okay, this is what this guy is, and this is what he wants to do. You don't really get that so much from Sinatra in the original. It really could have went any way, like up until that like 53-point mark when they actually break out the plan, because he didn't even really like seem like he was even like the guy in charge for a while. Because it's like you don't see a lot of him. It's like it's really split up a lot, and he's not really that mastermind idea, man. The first half of the original film.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and that does sort of flavor my opinion of some other characters too as we progress through this. But you nailed it on the head. I mean, to be honest, your assessment of it seems like he was just hanging out with his buddies is because that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like throughout the film, if you've got an eagle eye, there's several Vegas like signs that like the actual actors are performing at those places
Yeah.
throughout the week. So like their names are there, and like you're saying, this Danny Ocean, he's playing pranks. He's hanging out with women. Sometimes it's his wife. Sometimes it's not his ex-wife. So you're getting more of this kind of like playboy, kind of like laissez-faire guy who, like you said, doesn't really seem to be in charge, other than the fact that people respect him. There's a couple times in the film where they're like, "Hey, you're not saying anything bad about Danny, because if you were, you might get one of these." Just it doesn't, like you mentioned, if you didn't know what you were getting in for, you wouldn't know what the movie was about. To your point, for a majority of the film, it's a strange kind of counterbalance. Like they spend a lot of time collecting their
Yeah.
crew with no concept of what they're even doing.
Right, and they take their time collecting the
Oh,
crew. Very,
they-
very slow build in that original film.
and to your point, in the remake, what I can appreciate about what they're doing is we know in general kind of what they're up to. You know that he's a criminal. You know he's going for a big score. So that's all laid out. Like you said, he goes to get Rusty immediately. Okay, focused. He's a very focused man. He's oriented on his task. He's taking it very seriously. And we know Danny Ocean is a mastermind. It makes sense that the movie is now called Ocean's 11 because Danny's in charge. Whereas in this original, Sinatra, he might just be playing pranks that he died,
Yeah.
But then he's in the taxi that picks you up. It was just a strange way to get into the film. Look, I get it. Like those guys were so famous at the time that they probably could have done anything. They could have been in a scuba gear at some point. Like it didn't really matter what they were doing. It just mattered. It was the Rat Pack.
Yeah, just want to see the Rat Pack do something kind of cool, and I guess back then that was enough. You're just gonna see the Rat Pack kind of hanging out, talking about dames and what they would do with all the money. I guess we can get into the details of some of the shenanigans they get into, or some of the semi-racist things they might be doing later.
And
Can't wait to get to that. But it's weird because I've seen the remake so many times. So when I watched the original, I was really comparing it to what I already had seen, and which is unfair because this one came out like 4 decades before that one. But
Sure.
it's just Danny Ocean. You just expect it to be this guy who's got everything like together and it's like in charge and everything. And just he didn't seem like that. He seemed more kind of of the times the Frank Sinatra, like Don Draper. He wasn't Danny Ocean, man. So it was an interesting depiction. But when you think about it, it's really just Frank Sinatra. It's not really anything, I guess, sort of special about his Danny Ocean. He didn't really do anything to be making you go, oh wow, that's really cool. Unlike the remake does.
Totally. I mean, even making him like a ladies' man has no real impact on the film.
Yeah, they introduced 2 of his love interests, and that really goes nowhere in that original film.
And I think it goes back to what you're saying. Is like, Frank Sinatra, he's good with the dames.
That's right. Frank's not going to sing. At least let's show him with the broads, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And then in the remake, Danny Ocean, and we learn more about this, is still hung up on his ex a little bit. He's not a ladies' man in that way. Mm-hmm. He's a charmer for sure, but like he's singularly focused on one woman. And at least when introducing that woman, it comes into play.
Yeah.
So, without us really diving too much into it, because I really don't think that Sinatra gave us much to work with here.
Mm-hmm.
I can just kind of early out the way we do these things. The lead clear winner in this category is George Clooney. He's charming in more ways than just being like a handsome ladies' man. He's charming in the sense that like he's really inspires his people. He's very competent with the plan. Like you trust him because he actually has a plan. a good one. And time and time again throughout the film, he shows why he's the leader. And I think that just by doing that, this Danny Ocean is the much stronger Danny Ocean in the film.
Yeah, like you said, I think you just nailed it. He's definitely the clear leader of this gang in the remake. Not so much in the original. It could be a couple of guys maybe. So yeah, like you said, just because Frank didn't really give us much, we'll give it to Danny Ocean in the remake, George Clooney, for sure.
And then I guess obviously we got the Danny Ocean out of the way. I would say that left space for Peter Lawford's Jimmy Foster, who's he's more or less Danny Ocean's right hand man in this film.
Jimmy Foster is sure to be wherever there's the most of anything.
The equivalent in the remake would be Brad Pitt as Rusty Ryan.
Been practicing this speech a little bit. Did I rush it? Felt like I rushed it. That was good. I liked it.
And this is hard. I think for me personally, in the absence of Frank Sinatra feeling like a leader, I gave some of that leadership sort of quality to Jimmy Foster. He seemed to be a little bit more serious about the plan, and he interacts with, in my opinion, with more characters in a way that like furthers the film. Like when there's doubt and stuff like that, he helps sort of cement that, hey, don't forget you can trust Danny, So like he's doing a lot of what we see Pitt do in this other film. In a sense, I don't think that Pitt, even though he's kind of like the co-lead with George Clooney, he doesn't feel as much like the leader to me as Foster does in the original. But I'll say this, that Pitt is clearly, and we're seeing this once again, more competent, and it's because we get examples of him being competent throughout the film.
Yeah. Jimmy is the first character of the 11 that we're introduced to in the original film. So that's an interesting take there. I thought, is that Sinatra? Is that Danny Ocean there? But no, for some reason they decided to start with him. Danny Ocean is with him, but we don't see him until later.
And you'd be amazed where you can find an ex-paratrooper these days.
Jimmy's the first one, I guess, to get the phone call from Spiros, to just kind of lying about where Danny is, and then he's not there. I don't know. They don't like Spiros in the beginning, or for a while in the film, they like fucking with him a lot. So that was interesting. Jimmy also has a very rich mommy that he takes money from. So I know you think that he takes like this leadership role, but to me, because he really depends on his mom a lot for money, that sort of knocks him down a couple notches in my book, that he's really dependent on her. And they even ask the question too, like, if you come from money, well, why do you even need to do this? He's like, well, you've never met my mom, and she marries all these husbands, and she gets all these divorces and stuff like that. So his motivation is a little weak too.
Extremely flimsy.
Yeah, so he's dependent on his mom, and then he has a weak motivation to even be doing this, because he has a sweet life. He could just, sit back and do nothing all day, but he wants to do this heist with everybody because I guess he was in the same troop as everybody, so maybe there's some loyalty there. But I don't know, just those things combined, I didn't see him as such a strong character as you did. And then going to Rusty, like you said, we see him, he's kind of teaching these celebrities how to play poker, and it's a pretty hilarious scene. Just they don't understand anything about the game. So yeah, we see he has like his own kind of side hustle going on, and then like it takes like a Danny Ocean to kind of pull him out of that, and so it's like kind of elevate him. So it isn't also an equal partnership. It's definitely Danny kind of leading the way, because otherwise Brad Pitt's Rusty would have just been stuck there making like kind of chump change as opposed to this really big heist. So Danny definitely takes the lead, but Brad Pitt definitely has like some good stuff to do, but he just doesn't have that direction or that vision that Danny Ocean has in the remake.
I think that's fair. And I think that you point out sort of the weaknesses of both characters. Honestly, for me in the original, because of the absence of any leadership on any real level. I mean, Spiros isn't the leader. Danny is barely the leader. So Jimmy, just because of the amount of screen time he has, what he does, I put him in that category. But you're right that you kind of get the same thing with Pitt, where he's very capable, but you said he's not the kind of inspirational figure. He'll help you get the job done. He's got a lot of utilitarian traits to him, and he gets a lot of big moments in the film. Uh, as we talk about more, like he's the one that makes a major phone call late in the film and kind of like lays out what has happened. So in that sense, I think Pitt, though not exactly Danny Ocean's equal, is a lot closer to it. We see several times in the film where he held things down while Danny was away.
Hmm.
Anytime Danny goes away, he's the de facto leader. And in that sense, I think you're right that I think he has some leadership abilities. But I'm grading on a curve because the original, like, there's just such a void that I had to fill that in my mind with Jimmy. But to your point, the mama's boy aspect, that is a weakness, and
It is weak.
it does come to actually hurt the crew in the long
Yeah,
run. So
pretty much ruin everything for them at the end. But we'll definitely
we'll
get to
get into
that when we
that.
go over the plot points. Another thing about Brad Pitt too, he's kind of the one. George Clooney's on the inside, so Brad Pitt's the one that has all the connections to the outside. It's really him that kind of puts together the team. It's like, oh, we need this kind of guy. We know that guy. I know exactly who we can get. George Clooney's, what about this guy? Oh, he's dead. Like, George Clooney doesn't even know like, he's still alive and dead.
Right.
So it's, very important character. But like I said, he didn't have that direction and vision. He needed a Danny Ocean to kind of put him there or take him there.
It felt to me like Brad Pitt, who's a very strong and charismatic actor. I don't know. I feel like Clooney's Danny Ocean takes a lot of the air out of the oxygen out of the room. Like I think Brad's doing a good job, but like it's Clooney's film in this particular
Yeah.
case. But like you said, look, Brad being a strong actor as he is, he finds his spots, and I think you're right. I think you nailed it. But based on your assessment, I'm starting to say that Jimmy felt like more of a leader, but I think your points are pretty strong. So clearly, once again, when it comes to our two leads, the advantage is to the remake. They just fleshed them out better, and they just do more useful things. Whereas
Yeah.
in the original, both of them actually kind of hurt the plot.
Yeah. And I think we'll be saying this about more of the characters as we go on, but they're just more competent thieves in the remake than
Yeah.
they are in the original. Despite what happens at the end of that original, we don't really get any sign that these guys can do what they want to do. We haven't seen anything until the heist at the end. But at least in the remake, like we get little bits of
Mhm.
every character as we were introduced to them to show us that they're good for the job or they're necessary for the job.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that as we discuss the characters more, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think the original has the framework to make it make sense. Them having this military background, they talk about some of their exploits. I imagine whatever World War II shenanigans they got into, it appears like they're very competent. But like you said, you don't really get shown that. They tell you, but they don't show you.
Exactly.
So on the front end, I think that crew had the makings to be the stronger crew. But what we see in the remake, where, to be honest, like, I guess I get it. It's the criminal world, so it is a bit ragtag in that way. But to be honest, there's not really a real reason why this collection is the strongest collection. But they do enough to show you that just go with it. Don't fight the story. It's working, and we'll get into that more as we go. I think the last major character I want to highlight before we get into the actual plan would be sort of our plan man in both films. In the original film, you have Spiros Asabos, played by Akam Tamirov.
Keep your eye on Danny Ocean.
And in the remake, you've got Elliot Gould playing Ruben Tishkov.
You're gonna need a crew as nuts as you are. Who do you got in mind?
Similar in the sense that they're very over the top. I would almost say like stereotypical if I had to like flesh them out. I think Spiros, in my opinion, kind of edges it out a little bit because he is the plan man. There is some question of his leadership because people do openly question him in the sense of why is this guy here? What does he actually do? But he's the orchestrator of the plan. Whereas I feel like Elliot Gould plays more of like the financier more than the actual plan guy. Like he has his own beef with as we'll learn in the plan that brings him in, and that's how they kind of knew they could rely on his money. But we don't see him as much in the film, I don't think. And besides kind of giving them the money, I don't see really Elliot Gould holding a strong sway in the film, unless you had a different take on that.
No, he really doesn't have much to do after he's sort of introduced. He does have a great introduction where he goes over the 3 robberies, the most successful robberies in Vegas up till that point, and a hilarious sort of montage and great use of "Take My Breath Away." But after that, he really doesn't do much to contribute. He is the financier of the whole scheme, but he doesn't really do anything. And you kind of see him a little bit later in the movie at the fight. Just because it's his casino that was demolished because was it Benedict? I forgot the guy's name. Yeah, just took over his casino. But yeah, I mean he's funny in the beginning, but doesn't really do much after. We focus on the other guys in the film. Spiros, kind of it's a weird depiction. Also, like I said before, Danny Ocean loves just playing pranks on him, and always just like. I don't know, because you said he's kind of like one that put everything together, but I always feel like he's always like in the dark, like what he doesn't know what's happening.
It's like this over the top portrayal. It kind of reminds me of like what's his name, Zero Mosef or whatever from the producers. He has this very specific character. I'll edge him out a little bit because, like you said, he is in the dark quite a bit, and I mean quite a bit. But throughout the film, he's making arguments for why they should kind of stick together. He's, making arguments about why is this person in the crew, and then, like you mentioned, because he's in the dark, he doesn't realize that, like the guy with the broken arm, the cowboy character, for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. Neither one of them do much in the film, in my opinion. I do like Elliot Gould's, like you said, that one scene is very, very strong. But then after that, there's nothing there. Spiros is a little bit more present throughout the film, and though he doesn't do much, I think in a film where not many people are doing much, I'm going to take it out of just pure necessity. I'll say that Occam's portrayal in the original, I'm slightly edging it out, but honestly, if you made it a push, I wouldn't fight you.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of equal. Like, Occam's Spiros was, I don't know, he was kind of a one-note character for me. It was kind of just the same thing, just kind of in the dark, just always worried all the time. And then, Danny's just playing a prank on you. You didn't have to worry. But he at least does get more screen time, and to his strength, I'll say he's one of the more memorable characters in that original film, because I don't really remember a lot of the guys who were in the heist. But he's not one of the Ocean's 11. That's an interesting point. While Elliot Gould is one of the 11. So you got that. I don't know if that really affects anything. I'm going to kind of take the coward's way out and kind of give them a tie.
Yeah, that's fair. The one X factor for me is technically it's his plan in the original. So, okay.
Fair enough. Not going to argue there.
But he's not even the one that even outlined the plan or executed. So, they weaken the character in the original film, as they do often in that film, by having characters openly ask why he's involved and what his purpose is. So I could see why you would say the same thing, Dan. Why is he here? But honestly, the star of both of these films isn't even the actors. The star is the plan. So I think it might be time to try to break down as best we can what these plans are. Yeah.
So we have very different plans and that require very different heists and have very different outcomes. So we will start with the plan. I've kept it pretty vague, so feel free to add anything you have in your notes, Reggie. The original film, the plan, which, like I said before, we don't hear until minute 53 of the movie. I was like, finally! Like, they're just talking, hanging around. I mean, in that original film, I just got to say this quote, because it was so poignant to the movie at that point. Okay, there is one line that Spiros says in the original. He's like, I gotta listen to all this? They're rotting my brain. I was like, that's interesting, because that's kind of how I feel. I gotta listen to all this shit, and it has nothing to do with anything in the movie for 53 minutes. So, good on Spiros for helping me out there. Anyways, the original plan was to rob 5 different casinos at the same time after midnight on New Year's Eve. The plan in the remake will be to rob 3 casinos, but all their money is going to be in one location, and it takes place during a boxing match where the casino will have more money than usual.
Honestly, because the original film is more or less an advertisement for the Rat Pack. The 5 casinos they're hitting are the Sahara, the Riviera, Desert Inn, Sands, and the Flamingo. Not that it really matters. The plan is pretty rudimentary. Really, it more or less requires knocking out the power long enough to make this heist. There are some details that you have to fill out between there in terms of them sort of knowing where to walk and stuff like that in the dark.
Oh, yes.
Oh boy, yeah, a lot of spraying the floor with some sort of substance that lets you see footprints and handprints and stuff like that in the dark if you have a flashlight.
And special glasses.
And this, yep, the They Live glasses. I will say this that in terms of characters that kind of matter, this does elevate our character in the original film, Tony Bergdolf, who is our master electrician. I'll take some time out now to talk about Tony because
Sure.
he does matter. Tony Bergdolf, who's played by Richard Conte, who is, I would say, the third major character in this film.
A guy like Bergdorf's been playing some very long odds.
He's the master electrician, which, as I mentioned, that elevates him because the plan is to knock out the power. He was in jail, very similar to Danny Ocean in the remake. He has some of the strongest motivation in the film, in the sense that once he gets out of jail, he doesn't want to go back to jail because he has, an ex-wife now, but he's got a young son that he's kind of now estranged from. And his motivation really is to make enough money because we find out, ... that he has the big casino.
The big casino. Tell me, Doc, it's the big casino.
Which apparently was slain for cancer. And, so he's very hesitant to join the 11 crew. But when he finds out that he's probably going to die anyway, he wants to make enough money to send his kid to college, basically. So, honestly, the only person I could say with a real motive to do this. If you really break it down, because everyone else's motivation, I guess, is money.
And really one of the important people in that crew in the original film. Like, he has that, like you said, he has a very specific role. He has to kind of rig the electronics in each casino so that the doors will open once the power goes out, right? I believe that's exactly what he has to do. So he has to prep for every casino, then he has to actually like manually do it the night leading up to that power out. So he has a lot of heavy lifting. Without him, it will not work, the plan. So he's a very important player in that original film.
Absolutely. So Richard Conte, with this strong portrayal, his interaction with his son was strong. I thought that was very good. It's one of those Japanese abacuses. I don't know. I love the hokey kid scene in that film, but like we mentioned, without him, none of this works. So he's super important. But really, that is the plan. Like, I found it very strange, by the way, since we're talking about this plot, that they flew out to Vegas and the next day everybody had a job. Like, now one of them was a lounge singer at a casino. You got guys working directly with the casino in a way that I was incredulous. Let's put it this way. I didn't think that made a lot of sense based on what we were seeing. But, look, it's a straightforward plot. Everyone has their role. You figure out how the casino comings and goings work. You knock out the power. You steal the bags of money. And you got Sammy Davis Jr., who plays Josh Howard, or Little Joshy, as they like to call him.
Or you turn up DSM winner Josh in a fleet of trash trucks.
He's the getaway driver. He store the money in like trash bags. He takes the dump truck or whatever and, gets away with the money. That's more or less the big plan.
Also, he rigs an explosive to one of the electrical towers to help the power go out. So he has two very important roles.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, then, if we're talking about the hierarchy of the 11, in my opinion, I guess by default, it's Danny and Jimmy. They're super important for not really heist reasons. You got Tony Bergdolf, who is the central, in my opinion, character in this film. You take him out of it, there is no plan, there's no film, there's no major motivator here. And we do learn later in the film that his outcome is very essential to whether or not this plan succeeds or fails. And then Sammy Davis Jr., who honestly, and we may talk about this a little bit through our portrayal, at the time, because of race relations in this country, Sammy Davis Jr. Is sort of kind of defeating all the odds to be a major player in this film. And I think that, like you said, charisma wise, he's memorable. His plan actually matters. He has some of the better jokes, though there may be some racial undertones with the big joke. But like, I don't know, Sammy Davis Jr. and he sings the song. He sings the big theme song.
Yo, 11.
Yo, 11. And like you say, he does the explosives. I think that if you look at the remake sort of cribbing kind of ideas from the original film, that clearly Bergdolf's electrician and Sammy Davis Jr.'s, the dump truck, that comes back into play. The explosives, that comes back into play in a big way. Those two are kind of the underpinnings of this film. And I think that's why we see the recurrence of sort of their roles in the remake. So everyone else to me, I mean, I guess one guy makes out with a drunk chick.
One guy? You mean Dean Martin?
Good point. Dean Martin makes out with a drunk chick who apparently got paid in a vehicle.
Yeah, not just any drunk chick. Shelley MacLaine. Yeah.
Hey, give me a little kiss.
Sound idea. It's constructive.
You wait right there, and I'll be there in a minute.
I'll wait for you.
Yeah. Shelley MacLaine. And honestly, and this is how crazy this film is, in one of the more memorable roles in the
film. She has an uncredited cameo and is one of the more memorable scenes because of its, edgy subject matter, especially in today's day and age. Drunk woman comes out of her car and then some strange man comes up to her this day and age. Oh, that ain't good.
Which, I'll say this, though. She has some agency. I mean, it's a little questionable, but she has some pushback there. Also,
she has the worst friend ever, too. Oh, you're pretty drunk. Here's your keys. I'm going to drop them on the ground. I'll see you later. I mean, what the hell?
Terrible friend. Her scene also is important because it reminds me that this is a New Year's heist. So I guess both films do have the distraction, the big distraction. So in the remake, it's the boxing match. In the original, it's New Year's. So I guess loud noises may play a little bit better when we see explosions and power go out. So, I don't know. The plan, it's a plan. It works until it doesn't work, which we'll talk about a bit in the ending. But it's executed more or less as intended, minus the demise of one of our characters, which I think we'll talk about when we get into the ending. But unless you had anything else you wanted to flesh out about that plan, I think we really gave it about as much attention as it deserved.
I mean, I don't have anything to add to the original plan, so I think we could just go into the remake.
So yeah, without getting into the success of either plan, we can talk about the remake plan, which honestly I probably need more of your help with on this one. But we sort of have a 1-to-1 comparison, not quite, but there's a bad guy in the remake. And I guess very late in the game, in the original, there's a bad guy that sort of shows up out of, in my opinion. I mean, he was
kind of Joker, you might say.
Yeah, a bit of a Joker. Wow.
All right, thank you.
I'll never forget the mustache showing through the makeup.
Oh yeah,
for that.
I had to tell Sam as we were watching this. He was the Joker, and they painted over his mustache.
So good. So in the remake, there's a character that is kind of central. His name is Terry Benedict, played by Andy Garcia.
Congratulations, you're a dead man.
We are alluding to Cesar Romero's character, Mr. Santos, in the original.
Hello, Danny. Hey, nice rooms they got here. Don't think I know your friend.
You don't know me either.
Sure I do.
Who I don't want to dig into him too much because he is a late game player, but I would say Terry Benedict, played by Garcia here, is a little bit more central because he is a motivator for several characters, and honestly the plan is the plan because of who he is, so let's take some time to talk about him. Not only did he mess up Elliot Gould's Tishkov's casino, which we see get demolished, Not only, he also took Danny Ocean's girl. He's dating
Oh, dip.
Tess Ocean, played by Julia Roberts.
That is the sexiest thing I have ever seen.
That's a sin in Mr. Ocean's world, wouldn't you say, Dan?
He does not like that one bit.
Not one bit. So we got, which I think is a strong point, we have a centralizing, grounding figure here, which is, hey, here's a bad guy. Why are we robbing a casino? We don't like this guy. Cool. You know, money's great. And as the original shows, money is not enough of a motivator for me, outside of like if you have a reason for it, which Bergdolf's kid. In this case, there's at least two characters that want Benedict out of the picture for his dealings.
Yeah. So obviously we said Danny Ocean was orchestrating everything, but maybe if we get into what the other characters are doing, it'll help us kind of flesh out the plot more.
Okay.
So Bernie Mac was actually the first character that Danny Ocean sees when he gets out of prison. Plays Frank Catton.
Want me to get on the table and dance? You like me to shine your shoes? Want me to smile at you? But you definitely won't let me deal the cards. You might as well call it White Jack.
And he's pretty much just a dealer at a casino. He Atlantic City, good old AC, local. So he transfers over to Vegas. He's useful in a couple ways. He gets all pretty much the blueprints of the layout of the casino, so we know how the vault looks, which is important because they're going to need to replicate that. And he's also going to be kind of a bit of a diversion to help us get the codes later. Then we have these twins, these Mormon twins, Virgil and Turk, played by Casey Affleck and Sean Conn.
The Malloy twins.
Waiting, sweetheart, just waiting.
Good, go.
Waiting for you.
What do you want?
Go, little girl. You're like a little girl.
Relax.
Yeah, they are odd. They are odd. They're very much there, I think, for comic relief because they're always just fighting and yelling at each other. But they also have, like, they do a lot of the, sort of the, I don't know how do you describe this, sort of the low jobs. Like, we got to move this from here to here, or just, like, do this random shit that's Danny Ocean can't be expected to do this thing. So, like, you lower level guys can handle all that. The grunt work. Oh, let's call it. Yeah, they're doing the grunt work for the most part. But Casey Affleck also does have a little bit of he's a little tech savvy, I should say. So, which we'll see later at the end. Then we have our big tech guy, Livingston Dell, played by Eddie Jimison.
Vegas, we're set.
He's in charge of security. He doesn't really do much later in the film, but he needs to break in to hack the security so he can have access to all the cameras and everything. Then you said it before, we have our Cockney accent guy. We have
Rubble.
Trouble, played by Don Cheadle, who says he hates that that he did that accent. He wanted not to do it in the second and third movies, but he had to do it, so that was unfortunate for him.
So unless we intend to do this job in Reno, we're in Barney. Barney Rubble. Trouble!
But he's our explosive expert, very important to getting that safe open. We have the Amazing Yen, played by Shabo Quinn.
Are just crazy enough.
He's our
grease man.
Guy on the inside. Yeah, he's the grease man. He's going to be inside. He's going to be there to help us rig the bomb to get that safe open. Then we have Carl Reiner. He's going to do his finest acting here. He's going to be portraying this sort of, this Russian kind of important, rich millionaire guy who... He's going to be the way that we get the explosives into the inside of the safe.
Oh.
It's also sort of just to keep an eye on the security room because he needs to distract them while they kind of swap the cameras to make sure people don't get spotted. Like Matt Damon's Linus Caldwell.
Well, did you check the batteries?
I don't know. He gets picked on a lot by Danny and Rusty.
Which I can appreciate. You know, that character, boy, does he seem out of place to you?
A little bit. It's his job is not so clear as to what he's doing. I mean, he does. It almost seems like he's like the apprentice to Danny and Rusty.
I can see that.
That's kind of how I interpreted it.
I can see that he does a lot of trailing people. He is good at sort of pickpocketing and sleight of hand and things like that. But you're right, he does things that like Danny Ocean can already do, and it's sort of like the Malloy twins, and we do see a kind of a funny beat where he's stuck in the van with the Malloys.
Yeah.
He is very low on the rung for a character that actually gets a weird amount of screen time, whether it's actually collecting him at the beginning of the film out of Boston, like that was a decent amount of film time. But yeah, ultimately he kind of also fits a comic relief category with the added bonus of being a capable comic relief.
I might deviate a little bit, but everybody has a pretty important role to play in the remake, which is one of the strengths of the remake. That's not really true of the original. You're like we went over a few of the important characters, and there's a reason we're not really going to go over the rest of them. It's because the rest of them are pretty forgettable in that original film. They don't have specific roles. They don't even have screen time. Like you mentioned the cowboy. Like that's it. That's his big moment when he arrives with that broken arm. He doesn't really do anything for the rest of the film that I can remember, and it could have been anybody, honestly. So a big strength of the remake is not only having this huge cast, but actually giving each person something very important to do, without which the plan wouldn't work, and that cannot be said of the original.
Yeah, I think it was smart of you to break this down by character because it actually helps us outline the plan versus this original film where, I mean, if you can punch a guy every once in a while, you're pretty much part of the crew. Again, the characters even undermine themselves at times when I forget who it is. Was it Dean Martin's character who basically was saying that he thought that had lost a step, that it wasn't the war anymore, that they were older, and
it was
like that's the type of contribution we're seeing from our characters in the film, which is like, I don't know, we can do it, boys, but I'm still with you. Versus like, even no matter how bit a character someone is in this remake, Bernie Mac, you need him in the casino. You need him on the floor, able to get people's key cards, access, like you said, blueprints. Super important. Casey Affleck and Malloy, you need those guys to get that cart with the grease man in there. You take that out of the equation, the plan doesn't work. So no matter how much comic relief they are, they serve a purpose, dude. Whether it's getaway driving and getting things where they need to be. Once again, the amazing Yin, barely speaks English, but like once again, if he can't do that crazy backflip onto like a server or something like that, like or excuse me, like something in the vault, what plan doesn't work?
Yeah,
Eddie
I think he has one line. I think he has one line in English. It's like,
what fuck?
What the fuck took so long? Where the fuck you been? That's it. It's great.
Oh, he was awesome, and you get the little added drama of his bandage. I guess he's the arm broken guy in this one. I guess
there you go.
His bandage gets stuck, and like, oh, are we gonna blow up the only Asian character in the? I sure hope not. Eddie Jemison, who I like in a lot of things, he does his thing here with the tech. So, I mean, everybody has a role. And, I mean, it all basically, if I had to, like, describe their plan, as it were, it's you take Carl Reiner playing a high roller who has a briefcase with the explosives in it, get that into the vault, which he does by basically saying, like, I want my, possessions in your vault. And Andy Garcia's character goes for that, Mr. Benedict. You get your grease man in there with Affleck and Malloy. And from there, that allows you to do different things with the cameras. Matt Damon comes back into play because he has to steal access codes from Benedict. Bernie Mac comes into play because he's the reason why Matt Damon is even in the same room as Benedict. So there's all this interplay, and that's the strength of this Ocean's remake. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's kind of a parody of it now in Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty in the most recent season, I don't know the name of the episode. Don't hold me to the flames on this, but more or less, it's like a series of collecting people for a plot, and it's like, Rick, you son of a bitch.
Oh yeah,
like,
I've seen that. I think one of my favorite parodies of it is the South Park episode, though, after Obama won the election the first time, and then like everybody who was running was like, it was all an elaborate plan to do some heist or something. South Park. So it's pretty good, these parodies.
And it's like in some sense, because of the strength of this film, the parodies were able to land because it's like, oh yeah, that is kind of what they're doing. But like, you can make fun of it because it's true, you know. Like you need all these little big characters, and there are things that can stretch the imagination a bit. With even Damon getting lost in there, Eddie Jemison dropping his device on the floor and having it. There are moments where if this one guy was looking at the camera, he would notice that the loop was off. But like that's the fun of it. The fun of it is there are moments where the plan could all fall apart, and it doesn't. You know.
Those are the plans. The execution. We'll start with the original because that is the simpler of the two. I might be getting a little off track here, but the original film spends a lot of time, because we are doing 5 different casinos, so it spends a lot of time with like the prep for it. So we there's like this great sort of montage in the original film of just like, let's go to a casino and then we have to rig the power there, then we have to go to the next casino and rig the power there, and they do it for every casino.
If you don't mind, while you're doing that, and then go to the next casino, ain't that a kick in the head?
Seriously, I mean, we're hearing songs over and over again at this point. The EO11 theme, Dean Martin singing "Ain't That a Kick in the Head" for the billionth time. It's pretty ridiculous. And then the night of the plan, we have to do it again. We have to go to every casino, lay out everything so that it works for every casino, one at a time.
Yeah.
And it really drags out. So I just had to mention that in the original film. But moving on. So like we said, they have to knock out the power, rob each casino. So they do that. Like we said before, they have this spray, this magical spray that only they can see with their glasses. So they're able to know which door to go to, and then they go to the back of the casino, to the safe in each casino, which every safe has the name of the casino inside of it, so you know which casino they're robbing, thank God. But they go there, and there's like 1 or 2 guys in the back of every casino, and then they just shine like flashlights in their faces and go, okay, you just keep singing and we're going to take the money. Okay, I guess that's what we're doing. Like, that was the plan? Let's just show up with put flashlights in these guys' faces and steal the money? Like, they didn't have guns. I mean, they didn't have, like, maybe their fists, maybe. I saw them choke a couple of guys out, but, like, that was the plan. You're going to knock the power out and then just kind of walk in the back and bully these guys and to get the money. It was pretty weak.
Yeah, it's very original Italian job in that sense of, like, yeah, if we, like, spray these guys and, like, punch these 2 guys, the plan will work. Like, it's loose. I mean, in a very ridiculous way, like they kind of foreshadow the ability to do so. We see when Honeyface is dancing early on in the film. When Honeyface's husband, I don't even remember the guy's name, and he's part of the crew, by the way.
Yeah, I don't remember him ever again.
But like when that fight happens, like Ocean and Forrester stay out of it because, like, hey, look, there's only 2 of them, so clearly, as long as there's 2 guys, any one of them could take them out. Now, if you add another guy, then someone else may have to get involved. So it's that sort of 60s ridiculous machismo thing where it's like, I'm going to chop you, or like I did in the Manchurian Candidate, and that's going to be it. And you're right. Like, that is a very loose way to have this plan work. And to be honest, speaking of execution, I think the reason why we see some of the endings that we see is because the plan is this stupidly loose. Like,
yes.
There's a lot of loose ends that were not taken care of. And to your point, it takes so long to steal from 5 different casinos. Thank God in the remake there's 1 vault.
Yes. Very smart decision of the remake.
Good cut, as we like to say. But yeah, I mean, like what? You go in, you punch a guy, you take the money, you throw it in a trash bag, and eventually Sammy Davis Jr. is going to like pick it up. I'm like, is that what I'm led to believe?
That's what I got from the movies, because I guess after they throw the money in the trash, then they kind of go back to whatever hotel they're staying in, because Vegas is kind of closed down, so like every car that tries to leave Vegas, they gets searched, except for the sanitation trucks. We're not going to search those all that stinky lettuce. No way we're going to search it, so just let them through, whatever. A random garbage truck on a Sunday morning, 3 a.m. Why not? After New Year's. Yeah, I guess that's the plan. And then we just hide it at the dump, and we wait till the heat dies down, and then we'll retrieve the money. I think was the plan.
That's more or less the plan. In this film, there is a snag in the plan, in the sense that Tony Bergdolf's character, the man with the big casino, does succumb to his
ailment,
ailment, illness, whatever you want to call it. So Tony Bergdolf literally has a heart attack in the streets, which is a loose end because we can kind of source him back, and we find out, without getting too far in the ending, we find out that Jimmy Foster's mom's future husband is a mafia guy called Mr. Santos, and who's actually one of the other memorable characters in the film.
I'd say he's my favorite character in the film.
I think so. Just he has Romero. He's having so much fun.
He's good.
And that slaps himself on the knee. Yes, son of a bitch. Yeah.
We should save that for the ending, though. I don't want to get too deep into his character.
Let's put it this way. So Bergdolf's death is a clear snag in the plan because it does sort of point to a little bit of evidence of who may have perpetrated this crime, which potentially comes back in the film. I think we'll discuss that a bit.
It bites them in the ass a big, hard way.
Yeah, it does. In the remake, I would say the biggest snag, and it's kind of solved pretty quickly, is the pitch.
Well, there's a lot of sort of fake outs, I guess you could say, that aren't necessarily like bad things happening to them, but they're made to look bad to the audience. Like Danny Ocean gets red flagged, and then we're led to believe that Rusty is taking full charge of the crew at that point. Right. And then, oh, you're out. You can't do this job with us. But Danny shows up at the casino anyway, and you think, oh man, he's gonna ruin the whole plan. But no, it was just Danny and Rusty messing with Linus, because Danny was fine. And you even think he's gonna get beat up by some muscle, but then it turns out Danny knows the guy really well, and it was just to help Danny like escape and meet up with Linus to do the plan later. So it's like a lot of these fake out things, and then like we said, Yen almost like got stuck, and you're like, oh man, there's the drama, but then it turns into this hilarious bit about batteries and Linus actually teaching Danny something. So nothing really goes wrong for the crew.
Let's try to, I guess, kind of break that down. If we want to go over from an execution standpoint, because you're right, the fake outs, the parts that make you think that perhaps the plan could fail, which is, again, a strength of the film, knowing that it's potentially could fail. Danny Ocean being basically discovered as being in Vegas, that is seemingly a problem. That, like you said, with the bruiser, that gets kind of solved in that, like, yeah, he knows the bruiser, so that's okay. Bernie Mac getting found out. His name's not Ramon, it's Frank C. Well, that's okay, because Matt Damon is going to be the FBI inspector. When Eddie Jemison is almost caught, rigging the camera, that's okay. Well, that one was closer to actually being a fuck up versus
that one and Yen injuring himself were like the two big fuck ups of the crew. Really.
Those were the two big ones, because even we see a moment where Carl Reiner is seemingly kind of taking the Bergdolf role of being the sick version, because we're sitting there and we're like, ooh, is Saul Bloom okay? Yeah. And turns out that's kind of like part of it too. One really got me, actually. I thought he was having some real problems.
Yeah, but then you see film. Brad Pitt show up in actually an Austin Powers wig. It's just a little trivia there. And so it's like, oh, it's Brad Pitt pretending to be the doctor. Oh, he'll be okay too. So yeah, a lot of these little fake outs towards the audience, which are all fun, because like you said, you think everything's going wrong, but then it's just the film being playful with you. No, it was fine. Yeah, see, everybody's fine. It's just a fun part of the film.
Yeah, even like the Malloy twins, you're like, oh, they don't have a key card, but that's part of the plan. That is kind of what puts like that Danny Ocean into that sort of superhero role almost, even though it's like grounded in reality. It's like he's got a plan for everything. He even has a plan, we find out, for getting his girl back. Like, this isn't just a heist about like stealing this guy's money to stick it to him. That's part of it, but he also wants to catch this guy in the act of being like a shitty, I guess, boyfriend or something like that.
Yeah.
And even that works out. From an execution standpoint, since we kind of all these other minor fake outs, I think we can kind of start easing into the end, as it were, unless you have something else you want to talk about.
No, I think we could go ahead and move on to the end.
Okay. I'm going to start with the remake ending because
Okay.
we're on the theme of fake outs here.
Okay.
I was, rewatching it because it's been a while since I watched Ocean's 11. I was like, why is Brad Pitt calling Benedict in the middle of this heist? Like, that just, they're not done stealing the stuff. So, like, I don't even know why he's
Right.
revealing that they're stealing the stuff. And it turns out that that's also part of the plan, because a lot of the footage that we're watching, and maybe I should have even thought that this was possible, because we see an entire recreation of the vault earlier in the film when they're like basically like plotting this out. Turns out what we're seeing is a recording, because it looks like, to get out of the casino, now that Benedict has been tipped off, Danny and his crew have to take the money from the vault out of the casino. They basically booby trap it, we learn, saying that like, we left half your money here. You're going to let our guys leave this casino because the other half is also booby trapped. And if you want people to find out you lost 160, whatever it is, million, billion, whatever dollars, or you can keep 80, which is actually, we find kind of similar to a scenario.
50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Exactly. We see that that's an allusion to the previous film.
50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
But like Benedict, who we learn to kind of fear as a character that is very capable. He's got cameras everywhere. He's got eyes everywhere. This guy's a machine. He's a robot. Matt Damon talks about. But all of that, and again, it's the big fake out, because like you said, we're only, as an audience, being revealed so much. So when it looks like the SWAT team is there and they're going to actually catch these guys, turns out this is a previous recording of a fake robbery. Brad Pitt and the crew are the SWAT team. They steal the money. They catch Mr. Benedict on camera saying that like he'll take the money over Tess Ocean. So Danny Ocean puts himself back into the room with the bruiser, seemingly being beat up the whole time, with no evidence that he's the one that pulled off the heist. And it's a masterstroke. I mean, for what this movie does well is it makes all the characters part of the equation much better than the original, but also it plays with the audience's knowledge of what's going on. So like we know there's a plan, but we don't really know what the plan is. We think we do, but we don't know what the plan is. And being left in the dark that long into the film is the greatest strength of the movie, and allows us for this big reveal at the end, which I appreciate.
It's what makes the movie so fun, really, because you think you know what's going to happen, and then they're not only tricking Benedict and everybody thinks but they're also tricking you, the audience member. It's like, you thought you knew, but you didn't really know. We showed you little teasers, like, what was that air freshener, that pine tree air freshener? Oh, here it is again. It's in the SWAT car. And you thought Carl Reiner was dead. Well, here he is going down as the SWAT team member. We're all having fun. We're all having a good time. It's believable enough, too. I think that's the important part, because it's, to pull off this fucking heist is pretty impossible, but they did it in a believable enough way, in a cool enough way as well, with the cool little montages, and that's one of the strengths of the remake. Again, it's like I talked about how laborious the original was, because we got to see one casino, then the next casino, then the next, and then like they do a lot of things where it's like a voiceover montage where like they're describing the things that they want to happen, but they're actually happening as they're describing what they want to happen. So it moves things very smoothly in that remake. Really like that, because especially after watching the original, just how slow it was to get everything done in that original film. So they do that montage thing a lot in the remake, and it's not overly done where like, oh, another montage. It's done in a cool way, which we hadn't really seen up until that point.
Right. Now, we can argue in the later Ocean films if it's still cool. But no, I mean, it's excellent use of time, because both films clock in around a similar amount of time, which, to be honest, for both films, that is quite a bit of length for what, like, there's not much here in either film. When you really think about it, the plot is pretty straightforward, but because we flesh out these characters, and like you mentioned, the use of like describing the plan while actually executing the plan, awesome use of time and not like getting bogged down in we've described it and now you're seeing it. You're seeing it real time and keeps things moving. It is cool, like, you know, even in the situations where we make any regular guy like us sweat, Danny Ocean's always got it together, man.
Danny Ocean's cool. Brad Pitt's always just eating some shit.
Yeah.
You know, they're all cool, man.
Like even when the bruiser hits him, he's like, it's supposed to be later.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm sorry, Danny.
Yeah.
You know,
how's your wife? Wife pregnant again? Something like that.
Yeah. He's cool. Like, yeah, I get why Vegas tough would like be friends with Danny Ocean, you know, or even Rusty Ryan handing the burlesque dancer or the stripper a couple of dollars and it's like, how's your mom? Or, you know, if you wait 5 minutes, she's on next. I'm like, that's fun. Look at these guys. I feel like we're in on the fun as the audience in this remake.
Mm-hmm.
And in the original, I feel like they had a lot of fun. I don't know what's going on.
Perfect analogy. I'm sure they did have a lot of fun filming that.
I think they had a lot of fun.
But it didn't translate onto the film to the audience so much.
And like I said, like if you really want to break it down, the bones of the original film, I think, are actually kind of strong with this like airborne battalion that are now using their army skill set in a real world kind of setting, you know, like a more civilian standpoint. And I think that like on paper, I think I would actually prefer that type of crew versus the crew we've amassed in Ocean's 11, the remake. But because everyone gets fleshed out, they're fun. We get to joke a lot. You know, the guys are driving the big truck and then he's got a little toy truck. Like all this fun shit. The Cockney accent, you know, I know Don Cheadle didn't like it, but I liked it. You know, like in the heist within the heist, you know, it's a lot of fun throughout. And I think having Danny Ocean wanting to get back together with his ex-wife really puts a bow on the whole thing because, you know, there's not really a reason for Danny to be there other than to kind of stick it to Mr. Benedict. And, you know, he's such a charismatic guy. I could be convinced that he could convince other people to come out of retirement and come rob a casino with him.
Yeah, that was a nice touch, making it personal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about money, because then you could be like, oh, well, he's a good guy because he just wants his wife back, you know? Even though he's also got millions for doing this, but we liked they focused enough on their relationship and then that he really does care for her to make us care and want Danny Ocean to succeed through this whole thing because it's not just about money. That was a smart addition.
Yeah, because I mean, what we did here is we took basically, you know, does he skirt the line a little bit? But we took a law-abiding citizen and made him the villain, and we took a criminal and made him the hero.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that with a little bit of heart with Julia Roberts' character, who, again, for not a lot of screen time. Obviously, Julia Roberts is a very strong actress, but she is a type of glue that you don't get in the original film. And I appreciate that they included her and that she is part of the plan. Part of the plan was like, I'm going to get back with my ex, so that when it's all said and done, when he gets back with his ex, we can root for that too. It's look, everything is tied up in a nice bow in a really clean way. Whereas in our original, boy, you got to feel for this crew.
After all they did. So I guess we'll start with the original ending, like after the heist. So they got all the money. Josh was able to get it to the dumps, and now all the casino owners have been alerted that their money's gone. So all the 5 casino owners sitting around in a room just talking about, what are we going to do? How are we going to find out about that? And then here comes my favorite character from that original film, Mr. Santos, portrayed by Cesar Romero. He comes in, he goes, I think I'll do it for you. I think I could find out who got your money. He goes, I want 30%. No, he says, I'm going to ask for a third, but you're not going to give it to me, so I'll just take 30%. He's really smooth in this scene.
I love it. Duke Santos, by the way. Let's put some respect on his name. I just love that. Like, one, I didn't even realize, like, I know Cesar Romero, and he had a good interaction with Jimmy early in the film.
I was going to say, that's why it's a great turn for his character, because when we're first introduced to him with Jimmy, we kind of see him the way Jimmy sees him. Like, he's just another guy after my mom and her money, and then he also has a very weak stomach, so Jimmy kind of goads him into taking a shot, or just having a drink with him, and then immediately he has to go to the bathroom. So we think, here's this guy who just wants her money, and he can't even handle his liquor, so we think this guy's a loser, like, pretty early in the film, and I like how they turn that around towards the end.
I agree with you. That was such a strong turn because at first I'm sitting there like, what is this? Why am I looking at this? You know, I thought it was mostly about Jimmy and his mom, and like this side character, like you mentioned, was going to be kind of like, let's take a couple shots at him and we'll move forward. But to have him come back in such a strong way, hey boys, Duke Santos, I need you to come crawling to me again.
If you guys had been pros, I'd have put you out of business. But new talent needs encouraging. I want half.
It was like, my only regret is I didn't do the job myself. It's just so good, man. God, thank God Cesar Romero's in this film, because in a way it's there's a bit of poetic justice for everyone involved in this way. So, you know, Duke Santos comes in and he's making the rounds just like Spiros was at the beginning of the film. He's calling a bunch of people. Hey, Jimmy Hoffa, I imagine. I don't know. Hey, did you do this one? No, okay. But if you do, you got to tell me. Like, I love that he's calling other mobsters and trying to figure it out. And then to have the mom, like, when Bergdolf dies and the mom, like, makes that connection for him. And he's like, you tricky little so-and-so, I could kiss you. And I just love that he immediately flips on him. He's like, you know, I told the casino guys 30%. I'm telling you 50.
Yeah, he's like, I like 50% a lot more.
and they don't have a choice but to kind of play ball with him, which leads him to make one of the stupidest decisions in movie history.
They have all the money safe at this dump. You know, could have just left well enough alone, and I don't know, they could have figured something out. But no, let's be smart here. Okay, so we got Tony's body. We're in Vegas. So let's put the money in his coffin, and then his widow will transfer it back to San Fran. That way we can just say we don't have the money, and Santos will leave us alone?
Yeah, how would that work? Like,
I don't know.
Santos knows you robbed him. I mean, you're talking about a mobster. You're talking about the casino guys. Well, especially in the 60s. I mean, you could go missing in that desert, as we learn in movies like
Casino.
Nah, he's still breathing.
Oh man.
Yeah, my bad. You more or less admit that you did it.
Yeah.
So by putting the money somewhere else, now he's just going to go away. Plus, the guy's marrying your mom. Like, you don't think that's going to be awkward at Thanksgiving for the next 20 years? Like, I just don't quite get it. I guess I appreciate it for the setup to what is a fairly strong ending, honestly. You know, but like a lot of things in this film, if you stop to think for a moment, and the remake does a good job of not letting you think. If you stop to think for a moment, you're just like, why would you do that? You know? Because, I mean, does Santos know everybody in the crew? I don't think so. You know, like, I don't imagine that they would easily be able to trace back, like, Sammy Davis Jr.'s character. You know, just like, I don't know, there's so many other ways to get this money out of Vegas.
It wasn't the smartest decision. Should we talk about the disguises they also used to train?
Yeah, let's do it. So I'll take over.
You can take the lead here.
Thanks, man. So when they find out that they've been found out by Duke Santos, the best Duke since Duke Phillips of The Critic.
Nice pull.
They all get into the the dump truck, as it were, and they have shoe polish so that they can disguise themselves as black guys, because there's a reason for that, I think. And I think really the only reason is to make this like blackface joke, which is, man, this stuff's gonna be hard to get out. It's like, and then they look at Sammy Davis Jr. How do you do it? And he starts to answer in earnest, and he's like, Well played.
What's so funny?
I knew this color would come in handy one day.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
How do you get this stuff off?
Well, what I usually...
And yeah, it's really, I mean, not that there's good blackface, but this is really bad blackface. I don't get it. Why are they in blackface, Dan?
It's very unnecessary. They are doing this heist or transportation of the money in the middle of the night where nobody can see them anyway.
Right.
So,
Right.
and there's not even like security or anything that they're
Right.
trying to hide from. It's an easy, let's break in and just put the money in this coffin thing. They didn't even need to wear costumes. They could have done this in their suits with martinis in their hands, Reggie. I don't know why they're
really
dressing up, putting blackface on.
I think it was just for that joke.
Yeah, I think so. And I read on IMDb too, they would joke about it with Sammy Davis for years afterwards. Like, really? Was Sammy in on the joke? I don't know, man.
That makes sense to me because that's what it feels like. It feels like you said, Dean or one of the guys was like a couple martinis and it's like, ah, wouldn't it be funny if we were kind of like you right now? It's like, what? It's like, yeah. I totally could see that for years afterwards and being like, hey, remember that time we were
oh God.
Like, I don't know. It was confusing, like you mentioned, unnecessary. I guess it's called Sign of the Times. The only thing that this is indefensible, but the only thing in their defense is that at the time, Sammy Davis Jr., even being a member of the Rat Pack, was discriminated against quite a bit. And, I guess it's more fun, when it's your own friends, because, like, they did fight for him to be able to, like, film and use different facilities in a way that, like, they could too. So, like, good up on the Rat Pack for that. As misogynistic, at times racist, I'm sure anti-everything, homophobic, I'm sure, as they could be. The one upside is that, like, someone as talented as Sammy Davis Jr. was able to make a lot of strides for people that look like me. And he did it from a way of, like, entertainment, which, sometimes that's how you have to break in. So poorly done with the blackface. But with the caveat being, look, that was the times. The guy was on marquees and couldn't even walk through the front entrance. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I was going to say, just a poor decision. They probably thought it was funny back then. It was probably got a laugh in the theater, I'm sure back then. But, like you said, they had Sammy in the movie. They fought for him to get, like, equal rights, like you said. He wasn't even allowed to stay at the hotels while they were filming. They're like, you got to go to the colors only. He was like, whoa. This is our friend. Right. You can't do that. He is staying with us in the hotel. That's just ridiculous. So they definitely, fought for him, even though one little bad decision in this movie.
Yeah. And like I said, there's no way that Sammy Davis Jr. wasn't, like, kind of, unfortunately, used to that type of behavior and stuff like that. I think that sometimes, like, even a decision like that to even participate in that, like, we have to put it in historical context. Look, the guy was the biggest star, especially for a black guy at the time. Like he was incredible, and honestly, without, like, a Sammy Davis Jr., it's a lot tougher for a lot more people during that time. So he was a trailblazer, and like I said, look, we can talk about it all day. It was a poor choice, but moving past that. So they put the money in the coffin, as it were. Nobody took the time to tell Bergdolf's widow that they pulled off a heist, that there was enough money for her and her kids. They were keeping her in the dark. It might have been a good idea to kind of shore that up. I don't think she would have told anybody, but, like, she made a decision that many people like herself would have done. She has no breadwinner. A funeral costs money. She had a little bit of money saved up, and said, look, they convinced her it costs less to cremate the body than it does to transport it. And it's a compelling argument to me too. So you get this pretty funny for the times interaction where,
before you get to there, I just want to give more credit to Duke Santos, because at this point the boys think they did it right. They're like, oh, we got the money here, she's going to transport the body and we're going to be fine. And then Santos paid off the guy, the head of the funeral home, to, like, alert him if any weird things were happening. So as soon as all 10 of those guys walk in, he's, like, tipped off already. So Santos is just like, on. He's like, you think you got rid of me? You think you outsmarted me? No, I know exactly where you assholes are. So he shows up at the funeral, right? They're all sitting there. They all see him. They're like, fuck, how did he know? So again, just credit to Duke Santos, just being right there. They think they're a step ahead of him. Nope, he's right behind them.
It's almost like the reverse Benedict. Benedict, who was super capable and thought he knew what was going on, actually his strength was his weakness because he thought he had everything shored up and couldn't imagine the world in which he got robbed. Duke Santos is just like, these military guys aren't used to this crime stuff. I'm the king of crime.
Yeah.
And he has them figured out in minutes, knows every move they're going to make, plays them like a fiddle. It's a beautiful portrayal. Cesar Romero coming in super strong on this one. And like you said, when he shows up at the funeral, I'm in the same boat too. I'm sitting there like, how are they going to get out of this one?
Because not only was he alerted that these weird guys have showed up, but hey, I found a $10,000 wrapper for cash right next to the coffin. It was very strange. And then Cesar Romero's just playing with it, looking at the guys going, I know exactly what you guys did. It's so great.
Yep. And what I will say is also one of the more memorable, fun scenes. I'm sure this is iconic. We referenced that this is referenced in other popular medium like Reservoir Dogs, for instance. You get this ridiculous game of telephone where they're sitting there listening to the eulogy, and you hear the cremation, I don't know what you would call it, machine firing up, and they're all like, "What's that sound?" And what's that sound? What's that sound? What's that sound? It goes down the line.
Now, all he needs are 11 men, like, say, 11 ex-paratroopers from his old outfit.
And then some random dude's like, oh, it's a cremator. Cremate. And it goes back down. And they all get this. Oh, my God. Mom. And Duke Santos gets it. Because Santos can overhear, and he's just like, what
these
happened?
Idiots.
And he's right. These idiots. When like Jimmy's own mom is like, you're an idiot. Duke Santos is saying you're an idiot, and you burn up all the money. You're an idiot. I love that this movie took that chance and had this sort of like, nobody wins kind of outcome. Because if you take that out of the equation, it's a pretty... I know it's an iconic film, and you got a grade on the scale and all this stuff, but it's not that great of a movie, to be honest. It seems more like a Rat Pack. Like look at them with a somewhat interesting script that lend itself to a remake territory. Someone to pick up the mantle and like make it different.
Yeah, I thought the ending was not going to be what happened. Like I thought when the body was getting cremated, I thought maybe it was an elaborate thing to make Santos think the money was in the coffin, but maybe after putting it in the coffin, maybe there's a scene afterward that they did like a switcheroo. So maybe they did a fake out on us, like the remake would be famous for. But no, they just fucking put all the money in the coffin and they fucked themselves pretty hard. So I was like, oh, this is going to be really clever, this ending. Oh, no. Oh, okay, never mind.
Nothing clever here, my friend. Zip, turn the fuse off, take the money, put the money in my friend's coffin, take the money out of here, and we'll wear blackface for a reason. Okay. It's a great plan. Their reaction at the end, just walking off into the strip, just being like, well, we suck. To your point, yes, would have been cool if that was actually like the double switcheroo, the fake out. I don't think at the time they had it in them to make the film that interesting. I think honestly, the Rat Pack looked at it was like, oh, it's kind of fun. Like, it's cool, these guys. Because at the end of the day, the Rat Pack were winners, so they didn't mind playing losers.
Yeah, that's true. This is very true.
Because, I mean, how much money did they make, man? Like, while they're filming this thing, they're just doing Rat Pack stuff. They're selling out 5 different casinos. Like, they're all doing each other's shows. There's broads, there's booze, like, that must have been a lot of goddamn fun.
Like you were saying, they would do their gigs at, late at night, and then after they did their gigs, then they would do the filming. So, yeah, they were working, and then they were filming. So yeah, they made a lot of money during this whole filming process.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and I'm sure they had fun hanging out and
Yeah.
getting drunk and womanizing, whatever the Rat Pack did back then. You
Well, I was
know?
going to say that honestly, it's a miracle we even have a film because they must have been hammered like the entire time, dude. Like the girl playing the drunk chick, she was probably actually drunk. It was a good ending. I think the ending really elevates the film, in my opinion. If you didn't have that sort of somber ending, as it were, I think that you have a pretty run of the mill,
Yeah.
I guess, heist film, and it's more than that because they take the chance of not actually succeeding.
Yeah, it's better than like if the guys who had an okay plan like got away with it. I thought the introduction of the Sanchez character was great. He really brought me back to the film because I was getting pretty bored, and I was like, wait a minute, this guy seems really smart. He seems really interesting, and then just to have them completely blow it after that, you know, it's because you think at that point, oh, they're gonna do one over on him. No, they did much worse than that, and yeah, to take the Rat Pack and then just make them like all idiots at the end. It's a nice twist on it. So
Yeah.
it's definitely better than just, oh, they're rich and now they're even banging more broads. I don't know, you know.
The runtime on the original film is its biggest weakness. You take that down half an hour, I'm not complaining nearly as much, but okay, you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I guess other than what we talked about in the endings, is there really anything else like loose ends that we should address? I mean, we talked about the blackface thing, so that's done. And you know, like we talked about some of the challenges they had. Apparently, one of the biggest challenges in the original film was actually getting the trash truck. You know,
Yeah, that's what I read too. Just getting Nevada to be okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and honestly, if they didn't get the trash truck, they probably would have done something else, and it would have worked just as fine too.
Yeah.
I think it's more interesting as trivia than it is as a film. You know, seriously, I really do. I think that like everything that had to come together to make that film is the strength of the original film. Whereas the remake, I think they took that storyline and said, "How do we make this better?" And to that point, should we get into our verdicts? Or
Yeah. I think we're pretty much there. All right, here we go, man. Reggie, should the remake of Ocean's 11 exist?
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one. The remake, I mean, look, the remake to Ocean's 11 should exist because I think they took what was a decent story that was executed poorly, in my opinion. Yes, I don't think I'm being too critical here. It was executed poorly, and they gave it more backstory. They made characters who aren't nearly as famous or iconic as the Rat Pack, but they made kind of character actors really like stars, like interesting people, and every single character had a purpose for being there. It was a tight film, even for what I would say is probably a bit too much of a runtime for that film too. I think you should, in general, cut 20 minutes off of it, and I think it works a little bit better. But it's a strong showing. There's a reason that it launched 1 million follow-ups afterwards. It took Clooney and Pitt's career, which were already super strong, but it took it into another level of saying like this is the star power of George Clooney just like smoldering into a camera, you know, and like flirting with Julia Roberts. So in that sense, I mean, you know, yeah, there's acting, but like it's George Clooney kind of playing like this sort of idealized version of George Clooney, and he does it really well. And I appreciate the film, and I'm glad it exists. I think it may have been too successful because it rose to the level of parody when it was all said and done. But I think that is because we all secretly love this shit, no matter how dumb it kind of is.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's yes, this film should obviously exist. I mean, it redefined the heist genre. You just said a lot of films spoofed it. I mean, or not spoofed it, but like took inspiration from it. I mean, we did Italian Job. We talked about this movie so much during our Italian Job episode. So yes, obviously this film should exist. I mean, they just did so many things right. Like I talked about, like the way they did the montages, just to get things moving, because it could really be a tough task just to get as much as done as they needed to get done, because you have so many people and they have so many different roles, and just to like make sure that nobody's really kind of left behind or just like forgotten about. You know, Elliot Gould falls pretty close to that because he doesn't really do much during the actual heist itself. But he still has a really memorable scene in the beginning, so you don't forget his character. Same cannot be said of the characters in that original Ocean's 11. I don't know half of the guys. I don't know why they needed this specific guy. The only thing I could think of is, well, it's the whole theme is that they were in the war together, so they're all just war buddies. That's why we need them. I don't know why we needed that elaborate introduction to the cowboy with a broken arm, who didn't really have a broken arm, and we see him maybe one more time after that. Yeah, I think you really nailed it before. Like, Ocean's 11, the remake, like, you're having fun with them. Ocean's 11, the original, they're just having fun by themselves. They don't really care if you're having fun because they're having a great time. You get to see the Rat Pack. Aren't you lucky you get to see the Rat Pack hang out? Yeah, I was pretty bored watching that original film. It just, the repetition of 5 different casinos, you know, consolidating that into one casino. Very smart decision of the remake. Yeah, this is an easy one. Of course it should exist.
From the perspective of doing a remake right, I think that this hits a lot of the categories I think we both have learned to sort of agree with in terms of films. One, something that you always say is that why, like, they did enough different from the original. Two, the thing that I always talk about, it was fun, you know? So, like, if you can distinguish yourself from the original while being fun and, like, I don't think any reasonable human being complains that they remade Ocean's 11 based off the product that we got, you know? Like, the last movie that was in this vein that I can really think of was, like, The Fly. I thought that, like, it was just so original and different from the other film. And this movie, though it's a little bit closer to the source material, it went off and it made these characters interesting, and they really knew how to do an ensemble cast. Yeah. So
it really redefined the genre in general.
Totally.
Like you said, so many films were just like, oh, let's just do an Oceans because that works. Yeah. People like that.
I had a feeling, just because I know you had experience with this film, I've had experience with it. I had a feeling that this is the conclusion we were going to come to, but it was definitely worth taking the journey because juxtapositioning it against the original film, I think, was important. And if you haven't seen the original Oceans, it's still worth seeing. It's long. You may want to break it up, maybe do it in like 2 sittings.
That's what I did, actually.
I imagine you did. But like, yeah, I mean, it's a piece of Americana, a little bit of history.
There you go.
But it's not that great of a film.
It's not that great. You want to see the Rat Pack, you get to see the Rat Pack. I mean, you want to see Dean Martin sing "Ain't That a Kick in the Head" 3 times? You're gonna see Dean Martin sing "Ain't That a Kick in the Head." I mean, we barely even talked about Dean Martin because he doesn't really do anything in the movie.
We should talk about the music. Let's. I know we did the ending part already, but like we should talk about the music. Let's just do it really quick here. The original film, like we said, "Kick in the Head," and Sammy Davis Jr. does like this extended version of EO11, and like every time something kind of happens, either someone sings that song or it plays in the background, just the instrumental, and that started to just drill into my head. I was losing my mind because it was or someone was singing "Ain't That a Kick in the Head," and I was like, I cannot do this much longer.
It's funny because we never really talk before we meet for the podcast, and this is one of the few instances Reggie had to text me. He goes, "If I hear EO11 one more fucking time."
Say it again, motherfucker.
Say EO11 one more time. I dare you. I'll double dare you.
Oh, man. Well, it's like the remake. I know, because you're the music guy. You know, I just bought a guitar, and I'm going to play it poorly for the rest of my life. But I'm trying to remember the remake music. I felt like it just
they had one big hit. I remember when the movie came out, that Elvis song that was kind of remixed. A little less conversation, a little more action. That was a big song back in the day.
It played so well in that montage.
Yeah. So it was that. A lot of cool, kind of jazzy, like slow bass lines with some like trumpets playing over it. You know, just cool music. That cool vibe of this cool movie.
Yeah, I think, you know, we talk about the Rat Pack. I think that really especially at the time in Hollywood, those are like the only people I could think of that could like reasonably contend with the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
Like Clooney and a Pitt. I mean, if you were doing this today, I think Idris Elba would be in the mix somewhere.
Oh yeah, he'd be the Rusty for sure, at least.
For sure, but no, two very strong actors. They don't really dip into misogyny. They're just kind of like they're the sexy Hollywood hunks, you know. People People magazine's hottest man of the year. That's what you got here.
You got three of them. You got Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and Matt Damon. Eventually, would be so like. Jesus.
I love they kind of just dunk on Matt Damon. It's such a fun choice. But yeah, man. Look, I had fun. I think you did too, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. It was good. Still holds up today. I mean, obviously it's been done to death since it came out, but it's still a strong one. I guess I'm gonna assume of the whole Ocean's trilogy. It's probably the best one. So I mean, I remember seeing the second one. I didn't say this in the beginning, but I saw the second one in theaters. I was with one of my buddies. Excuse me. I was with one of my buddies, and like the whole twist was like, it wasn't really a heist anyway. Like they already kind of did it, and then my buddy was just like, "This is fucking bullshit, man." Like he hated the second Ocean's so much, and that's why I didn't see the third one because we didn't have a good experience with that second one. But the first one's really good.
Yeah, that's what happened. It kind of became referential, and like you said, because the genre, they literally, like you mentioned, redefined the genre. So everything became referential to Ocean's if you were doing a heist movie, which is in a lot of ways, like this one's still fun, but like in a lot of ways it becomes goofy and dumb. Like this guy steals the key card, then he hands it to that guy, then that guy uses the key card, then that guy hacks the mainframe, then that guy uses the camera, then that guy, and like it becomes this just goofy plot just to have a plot thing. But this is like the purest version of it, like early on Soderbergh taking like something like we mentioned, like Ocean's 11, the original, like it's cool, but like there's not much there, and he took it and was like, I could make this better, and he did.
Yeah,
you know.
So credit where credit's due, definitely.
I think was 13 the one with Pacino.
Yeah,
I saw that one. That one was better than 12. But,
yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah,
but maybe I'll watch.
They got it back on track, but who cares?
What did you guys think? Any fans of the original want to defend it out there? Let us know.
Give me EO 11 reasons why you love it.
There you go. Some EO 11. But that's what we thought of the Ocean's movies. Let us know what you guys think in the comments, for sure. Let's decide what we're going to do next.
Sure.
I have a suggestion. If you want to indulge me here, I got a little bit of a story.
Okay.
It's not a great story, but it's I wanted to tell it. I've been practicing it. Just like George Clooney practiced that speech for Brad Pitt. So I was watching Knives Out, that movie, that murder mystery movie. I was watching it with my wife, and then I like that genre, that murder mystery genre. So I was having a good time. It's not a great movie, but I'm just good enough, fun enough.
I liked it.
And then my wife was like, "This reminds me of a lot of this book I read." And then there were none. She's like, I think you'd really like that. So she bought me the book. It's Agatha Christie, murder mystery writer, one of the greats. So I really got into it, and then I read another one of her books, which is what I think we should do for the next film, Murder on the Orient Express. Because there was a movie that came out in the late 70s or early 80s, and then there was a remake that came out a few years ago. So I think that would be a nice, fun one for us to do also.
I think that's a great idea. I'm aware of the remake. I'm aware of the original. Honestly, there's enough time. It's quarantine times. I might even be able to get the book in before I watch the films.
It's not a hard read. It's like tight 300 pages, so
nice.
You might be able to do it.
Yeah, if I start today,
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with it.
Cool. Excited about that. They both have like pretty big all-star casts too, so it's sort of similar to this Ocean's deal. So
cool.
All right, well, that does it. Thanks again for listening. You could hear us on, this is YouTube, so if you're on there, leave a comment below. Or if you're listening to this podcast on any other platform, Spotify, what are we on? iTunes. If you're on iTunes, if you could leave us a good review there, that would greatly help us out too.
And for two of you, we're on Google Play.
There you go. All two of you on Google Play. And we didn't even forgot about you guys. You can reach us on any of the social medias at Retro versus Remake. I'm Dan Bulick.
I'm Reggie Parker.
And thanks for listening to another episode of Retro versus Remake.